friends, and welcome to Crimes with Cole. So, hello. How are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are doing great. Today is going to be a great day. I have had 3 cups of coffee. I have more dry shampoo in my hair than came in the can, but that's okay because, our lashes are on and our lips are lined and we have a wonderful, but yet kind of scary case for you today. Today, we are going to be talking about the case of Cassie Jo Stoddart. Her killers wanted to be famous and felt if they were to make a documentary of taking Cassie's life, it would boost their chance of getting on the top charts. Cassie Stoddart was a beautiful, kind, and smart 16-year-old girl who lived in a quiet town of Pocatello, Idaho. She was well-liked in school. She didn't attend any extracurricular activities, but she had plenty of friends and was just nice to everybody. She was that girl, right? She's just that girl. Her boyfriend's name was Matt Beckham, and the two had been together for quite a while. They attended Pocatello High School, and on the chilling day of September 22nd, 2006, Cassie's life would forever change, all because her 2 friends wanted to be somebody. They wanted recognition. And to obtain their 15 minutes of fame, they plotted a sinister plan, and Cassie would be the first victim simply because the timing would be perfect. Cassie's aunt and uncle would be out of town that weekend, and they had asked Cassie to house sit for them. And, they had multiple pets and they needed someone to take care of them, so they figured, why not have their niece just come over, spend the weekend at their house? They trusted her. Now, Cassie agreed to stay at her aunt and uncle's house that weekend while they were away. And, if she needed anything, her parents weren't too far. Cassie's mother, Anna, had picked up Cassie and Matt from school that Friday around 3:45 p.m. Dropped them off at Cassie's aunt and uncle's house. Now, after the 2 had been dropped off at the house, they decided that they were going to invite their 2 friends over, Brian Draper and Torey Adamick. So Brian and Torey had came over to the house to hang out, and they arrived around 8:20 p.m., or so they claimed. Now, the 4 teenagers were sitting around watching Kill Bill Volume 2. Brian and Torey had decided to leave around 9:30 p.m., only to secretly return a few hours later. After all, they have been waiting for this moment for days now, right? It's all a part of the plan. And while the teens were watching Kill Bill, Brian and Torey had taken it upon themselves to make sure that they had an entrance back into the house once they left. They had made sure that the basement door was unlocked. They needed to get back into the house. It was all a part of the plan. And they've come too far to back out now. So, with a camera in their hands, the 2 boys had been filming days prior to this night to really build up the anticipation for their audience. Now, Cassie's mother had called her daughter around 9:30 that Friday night after she had dropped them off and they were watching Kill Bill. And it was just to check in on her, see how she was, make sure she was all right. She didn't need anything. Cassie said that they were fine, that her and Matt were just watching a movie, and, she would call her tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, Brian and Torey are in their car parked just down the street, gearing up for the next portion of the plan. They are putting on their black gloves, their hoodies, pants, and white painted masks. The two now looked similar to the killer they idolized called Ghostface, the killer in the movie series Scream. And for those of you who are not huge fans of Scream or never got into it, like myself, it is essentially a masked killer who terrorizes and kills people who are his classmates and friends. And about half an hour later, around 10 p.m., the lights went out in the house, which was strange because there was no reason for the power to go out. Now, concerned and starting to become scared, Matt calls his mother and asks if he can just stay the night with Cassie. She's scared, she's in this house alone, and he didn't want to leave her. Something didn't feel right, and he just didn't want to leave her. Matt's mother said no, but that Cassie was more than welcome to come back to their house, and then she could just drop her off in the morning back at her aunt and uncle's house. Cassie felt obligated. She told her aunt and uncle that she would stay there at the house to house sit and keep an eye on the pets, and she wanted to keep her word. So she told Matt that she wanted to stay. Matt was picked up around 10:30, 11 by his mother. So now, alone and scared in her aunt and uncle's house, Cassie can't help but notice that the dog kept laying by the stairs to the basement, almost guarding them, and growling and barking like something was down there. Hearing commotion downstairs and seeing the lights flicker on and off, she is now petrified, as anybody would be if they were even in their own home and the lights kept flickering and you kept hearing weird noises and just, oh God. So she's just petrified, frozen in fear, and she just sat on the couch waiting for it all to be over. This poor 16-year-old girl. I feel like as we get older, we grow a little bit more confident, some of us more rapidly than others, but I feel like when you are 16 and there's a bump in the night, you don't know what to do. But Brian and Torey were trying to lure Cassie downstairs to the basement, but it wasn't working. So they had to take measures into their own hands and change the plan. The two boys decided that they would move upstairs and start making noise to get Cassie to run into a different room, because she's in the living room right now, curled up on the couch, hoping and praying that she can just fall asleep and wake up and all of this will be gone and it will all be okay. And when slamming the upstairs bedroom doors and rattling objects that would make noise didn't startle Cassie, or so it didn't appear to startle her because she didn't get off the couch, the two decided it was now time to have a surprise attack on Cassie. With an assortment of knives in their hands, the two walked into the dark, quiet living room and pounced on Cassie, who was laying on the couch, stabbing her around 30 times, 12 of those wounds being fatal. Now, as the two boys left the house, blood pumping and full of adrenaline, they got back into the car, still recording, verbally speaking about the crime that was just committed, the horrendous act of taking Cassie's life. Oh my God, like, ugh. And when Cassie's aunt and uncle returned home 2 days later, they discovered their lifeless niece laying there in a puddle of blood that was so big it was overwhelming to the couple. Police arrived to the scene and they asked their questions, and they noticed that there was no sign of forced entry, and they could not find what Cassie was stabbed with. This led them to start pointing fingers at the boyfriend, as the significant other is usually the first suspect in crimes similar to this one, but because Matt was also the last one to see Cassie that night. Matt was questioned and told the officers the two had just watched TV that night and he left. That when he tried to call Cassie at 12:30 that night, she didn't answer. And police noticed a lack of emotion from Matt and asked if he would take a polygraph. He ended up passing with flying colors, as one of the officers would say. Matt, however, slipped and said that they had invited their two friends over that night too, Brian and Torey. The police then started to question the two boys about their whereabouts that Friday night. And the two said that they were over at the house, but it was because there was supposed to be a party. And when no one else showed up, they decided that they were going to leave and go to the movies. So when they asked about what movie they had saw, the two ironically could not remember any details about this movie that they claimed they saw. The police had asked a worker at the cinema, and the worker went to school with the two boys, so he knew who they were, and he had confirmed that the two boys were not at the cinema that Friday night. This red flag kept waving in the police's face. As they looked deeper and deeper into this case, they could not stop themselves from coming back to this. The police did lift fingerprints from the breaker box at Cassie's aunt's and uncle's house, and the fingerprints belonged to Cassie's stepfather. The stepfather had an alibi, though, for that night, and the reason his fingerprints were on the breaker box was because he had done work for the couple a month prior. The police then decided to bring Brian in for questioning. After all, he was lying about the movies, so what were they really doing that night? Brian admitted that he did lie about going to the movies because he and Torey had gone and broke into a few cars, but he didn't want to get into trouble for breaking into the few cars, so he lied. And right before the police officers set him up to take a polygraph test, Brian, with his parents in the room, confessed to the police that he and Torey had gone back to the house that night to turn off the power to scare Cassie. And they were going to dress up like the Scream, but it was only to scare her, because she was going to be in the house alone that night, and he didn't know that Torey was going to actually take it as far as he did and, stab her to death. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. Now, getting closer and closer to the real story, the police are led to an area near Black Rock Canyon, where the evidence of their clothing and the mask were discovered. The videotape that the two boys made was burned unsuccessfully. And when the police recovered it, they could not fathom just how cruel these two boys actually were. The video footage began with Cassie from school that Friday in her jeans and her green shirt, saying hello to the camera that morning while she was at her locker. It later showed the two boys in the school library making a death list, continuing with them stating how Cassie would be their first victim due to her circumstances that weekend of house sitting alone. And then they followed up with the act of taking their friend's life later that night. This is all being recorded, all of it. The two were charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole in 2007. Now, both boys obviously tried to appeal their decision, trying to downplay how they planned everything out. Now, Torey's attorney went as far as to get the knives that they had used retested to show that Torey's stab wounds were not the fatal wounds, right? And that he was only partaking in the stabbings because he was ordered to by Brian. Either way, both of the boys clearly planned this crime out. Now, I will leave a video link down below that shows clips of the footage of them recording and planning this crime to become the infamous Scream murderers. But this is just awful. Like, I don't know what possesses people to feel the need to take someone's life for no rhyme or reason. Like, I don't know why or how someone thinks that they're going to get famous from doing something like this. Like, when bad things are happening every day. So, as soon as you're sentenced, the next erratic person is out there taking up what you think should be your fame. But, what do you guys think? To record your entire plan to take this girl's life because you're obsessed with the movie series Scream, and that's who you idolize, is Ghostface from Scream. But what do you guys think? Oh, you guys will have to let me know. And until next time, please remember to be safe, and I will see you then.